The first tap of a conductor's wand. The first rivet in a mile-high tower. The master link at the genesis of a never-ending chain. The moment a single empty canvas meets a singular master stroke. There is no one thing. Because now, there are many. Because soon, there will be more. Because one is ever the beginning. Like the first link in an infinite chain, or the first rivet in the tallest skyscraper. The master stroke is found in the masterpiece. What will you begin?
Right on, Rivet. Welcome to the 145th episode of the World Blockchain Roundtable. Our hosts today are Greg from Rivet and me, Joe Chief, Dragon Chief, and Sean and Lisa are out today. They should be back next week, I do believe. Travel and whatnot. And also, John is still lost in the tunnels of New York. So if you are nearby geographically, you can help us out. Go and find John Branch, who is still the appointed MC of the show, I do believe, full time, but he's been lost. So anyway, helps out there. First, quick update on the round table layer ownership tokens distribution from last week's episode. Every host from last week will receive 222 lot. Every topic contributor will receive 83 lot. And last week's theme was nominated by Dayrox, who will receive 83 lot. These ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits, and governance votes. Get in there and use them as you can. And let's see here. We have something to share here. The results are in for the March themes. They have been decided. And I regret to inform you that I missed the vote. I was waiting because I wanted to let everybody vote and kind of see, hey, what else should be voted on? And then I just totally missed it. So totally stupid there on my part. But anyway, the first week is what's the next problem that blockchain can solve? I think you might have voted on that, Greg. Is that right? You're muted. I think you're muted. Sorry. Well, I think Greg voted on that one. Next. There you go.
Okay. You guys hear me?
Yes.
If it sounds buzzy, it's because my evil plan has been thwarted by the fact that I have a crappy cord between the actual Yeti cable. So, yeah. So if I want this to work, I really have to not move the air, which is a problem for microphones. They kind of function on that. So
no worries.
So I'm going to be a little buzzy, I guess, unless I can figure out a way to. Ooh, I've got an idea. Hang on. We're going to do a quick experiment before we move on with the show. That's all right?
Sure. I'll go through them too. Next, the next week, second week, why has the Solana blockchain popularity and utility grown recently? 3, blockchains used. Oh yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's clearer. Yeah, sounds much clearer. Yeah. Blockchains used for political polling and other surveys. I think that'd be pretty powerful, actually. And I'm trying to get one of our partners to do that actually for something. And the fourth week, know your customer, KYC, and anti-money laundering, AML, which I'm nominating Greg to host because he loves KYC systems and loves talking about them.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Know your customer, anti-money laundering. Did you guys know, just a fun fact, that you're going to find out on the show that there's literally so much money dumped into that, and the return on investment is so low that it's never performed better than 1%. And the numbers actually even extort, if defeat your law of large numbers fallacy in order to understand how infinitesimally large the benefit it provides is for what we spend.
Is it? We know it's. It's there for political reasons. Is it there to cover somebody's butt? Is it? Why is it there? Because it's obvious.
I think it's the law of. Crap! I think I lost that.
No, it's a little robotic
I
sounding.
can't hear
but
you
I can
anymore.
hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. It's just occasionally it gets a little
Can anyone hear me?
weird. Yes.
You can hear me. I can't hear you.
Really? Man. Audio issues. That old Mac.
Okay, I'm gonna try to log out and log back in. But
okay, no worries.
The question I think
I'll go to the next part. Yeah.
Before I go, actually, you know, I can't remember exactly what the question was about that distraction.
It's all right. It's all right. KYCs. We'll go over it. We'll go over it on that show. Yeah. So on the 4th week in March, you can get the answer to that question. Highly anticipated. Now, because it's an interesting thing, and how does that affect the crypto world, and how could the crypto world provide a better solution to what they're trying to do? Right. All right. Greg is back.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Checking.
You got it?
1, 2. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Good deal.
So what was your question? I felt like
we're gonna cover it in the 4th week of March. So they have to wait. It's just the KYC stuff. So
that's right. Guys, it's important. It's so important because you said you want to know why you think people are doing that. That's right.
Yeah. Well, why is it required? But I think
every program that begins for the reason that it's stated, and as soon as there's an institution around it, its purpose becomes the maintenance of the institution. That's why.
That is true. There's lots of there's money in it, so somebody's gonna push to keep it going.
Way nonprofits and government agencies work. They just they're trying to grow their budget because they are people who believe in the mission.
Yep.
They think growing it equals winning.
Yep. Man. So those are the results, theme of the week for March. And this week is securing Internet of Things with blockchain and AI, as you can see here. And while I refresh it, make sure you like the video and share it and subscribe and all the other things with the bell and all that stuff you're supposed to do wherever you are. So this week, the first question comes from, and I'm going to vote live here. First question comes from I am. How will our lives change with IoT devices connected to a network? How will IoT devices improve our lives and make us more comfortable? This topic always makes me think of parts that wear out or start breaking that are connected and tell us to change them prior to a catastrophic failure, like HAL, right? With the, what was that unit that went bad? Example, an engine alternator might fail at 8,000 hours. We don't track how long our car has idled or been on. Sensors turned into IoT is a perfect example of IoT.
It's beautiful. But perfectly stated. First off, that was a nice encapsulation. Though with IoT, I feel like, from my opinion, our goal is always to break our sense of scope because it goes just like relativity to the fringes of the very small and the very large and the very energetic and the very unenergetic, right? We have to push our understanding up to the bounds of physics, because technically a red blood cell with a transmitter receiver in it and a small microcomputer that you program into its DNA is an IoT device.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, depending on the context, and this is always the question of security, right? How much security is sufficient to defray? Because it's actually a great example. You guys ever watch? I'm assuming you have the filmification of Alan Turing's story in The Imitation Game.
I have not watched. I have it. I want to watch it.
It's okay. I won't spoil it, but I'll tell you this one quote where he basically says, what was it? Damn it! See, I'm having one of those days. IoT and security. There's a guy who's in the woods with his buddy, and they see a bear, like crap, and he starts to run. The other guy's like, hey, what are you doing? You can't outrun the bear. It's like, I don't need to outrun the bear. I only need to outrun you. And he tells that joke, right? That's security, right? You have to outrun the other guys. The point is to raise the cost of attack on your surface. Because everyone has one, and you can't make the surface go away. So the best you can do is be the more costly to attack.
Have a slightly better lock on your door, or at least have your door locked when your neighbor might
know
not.
your adversary and tune it to what you know makes them think things are expensive.
And that's a reason why even like say with security, even it's in the security world, it's always considered inadequate defense if you are using obscurity. But my argument is some level of obscurity where they don't know how you've secured it does help. I mean, you still need to do the base level,
unless they are a threat specifically based on the idea of looking for needles in haystacks to attack. Then
or if they
really great method.
If you are the only target in the world.
Right. That's the other thing. It's like if it's you that they want, then you can't secure it like that because they're once they find you, that's the end of your security. Then you've got nothing else for a second layer. But just because you need a second layer doesn't mean the first one isn't helpful. Right.
Yeah.
With the exception, I think, whistleblowers, right? Like Snowden adopted security by notoriety because they can't kill us in public if people know who he is.
Yeah. And by the way, my answer to this is watch out. Be careful what you do. If there's not a reason for a device that you're buying to be IoT, then buy a different device or don't connect it to your network. If you're buying Christmas lights that are IoT,
you don't need them smart unless you need them smart for a specific reason.
And I've seen that, and it blows my mind that you have these LED lights that need to connect to your Wi-Fi. I'm like, what for? I mean, other than phone home, they're gonna.
Well, and the problem is, I think you've got this dynamic where the information that you lose in cost-wise is undisclosed, right? Yeah. Some people buy a refrigerator because it's the cheapest thing, and some people go for a fridge because it's got the most whiz-bang tech. What if you could, and I'm going to just pitch this like I'm in Maytag going, hey guys, I got an idea, right? Why don't we add smart to the fridge, build in a Raspberry Pi that just has a microphone that retransmits to this thing where we'll have a database and a touchscreen interface instead of another kind of interface, right? We've already got a computer in there that controls the fridge anyway. Let's get rid of the physical buttons, make it look techy, right? Mm-hmm. We'll spend extra money. It'll feel nice to the touch, and we can claim that we put a lot of effort into it, right? And actually, what we're going to do is we're going to sell that data. And the best part is we can offer the fridge a discount over anything we've ever sold, so it's still the cheapest.
Yeah,
smart stuff turns you into the product to a degree.
Yeah, well, I am surprised. On the other angle, what is possible is to not sell the data, but instead to offer it to people. Look, we're going to track, maybe some very simple scanning system. When you put an item in or you scan it, maybe it has sensors on the inside to know where you put it. It could tell you, hey, that whatever that jar is, approaching its life. Why don't you, use it?
Or like, how about the best idea ever for a fridge? A kid and dog detector.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You'll never ever have to worry about your kid accidentally getting in the fridge and not be able to get out because it will tell you. And it'll open the door right away.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Like I would buy a smart fridge if the AI was designed for like safety from idiot hide and seek children.
That's a good point.
Doesn't worry for me.
Yep. So I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that could be done. There's a lot of interesting things that have happened because if you remember being in the tech world in the past decade, that IPv6 was rolled out because they were anticipating, hey, we're going to need a lot more address space so that these devices can talk to each other and the internet. And largely, it just became an annoyance anytime you're setting up a system because you have to.
It's like, well, that argues about too much prosperity in the context of more than one TV, more than one car, right? Like,
yeah, and it's nobody uses it that I know of. I'm sure somebody uses it. I'm just surprised that it's all there and it's apparently ready and well tested, and yet nobody really uses it yet. So that's interesting. And so IPv6, by the way, if you know what an IP address looks like, which is what's behind your domain name, if you go to, dragonchain.com, it's really a 4 octets, I think is what they are. I can't remember how many bits they are, but I guess it's bytes, right? So it's 0 to 255 on 4 parts. to denote your machine, and people buy blocks of them, blah blah blah, and you can communicate over multiple ports in each of those addresses. But what the IPv6 does is add a tremendous amount more room, more
right. You can have
a larger, bigger numbers.
Address space. It's called address space, I believe, is or addressing space is the concept. The idea is everything that gets on has to have an identifier, otherwise it can't handshake with the network, right?
And that's another huge potential opportunity for use of blockchain, because the DNS system, number one, is, in my opinion, antiquated. It's been proven to have major issues on the security side, even with the SSL, because the SSL certificate authorities are all centralized entirely, and they're cooked into your browsers, or at least most of your browsers. And .eth has made some really, ENS, Ethereum naming system, has made some really good ground on that. I was hoping way back in the early Bitcoin day, there was a thing called Namecoin that was Greg lost us. We can hear you, Greg, if it comes back.
I did
that Namecoin was set up.
Again. I'll explain when I get back.
No worries. Namecoin was set up so that you could essentially register a domain name, much like you can now on ENS, but it also came with the ability, and as ENS should as well, depending on how it's implemented, where you wouldn't need a centralized certificate authority, because Namecoin at the time, which I don't think is I don't think anything is running on that anymore. I don't know. But ENS, as an example, theoretically could provide the certificate authority, the signing capabilities to prove that you're really talking to
DNS plus signing certificates, right? It can provide you with a sufficient trust in the identity of the party you're connecting to.
Yep. And apparently they paid somebody off.
Securing the freedom to connect.
Yeah.
That's the whole internet in a sentence: securing the freedom to connect.
So I'm hoping that goes somewhere, because that would be a very useful thing. And you can imagine, not that you would have a special ENS name for your toaster or anything, but
you could.
The fact that it could integrate with that. Oh, you could, sure. I mean,
right. I mean, it'd be fun. In fact, I have now a theory that I should start squatting on those kind of .eths. Like, I would love to squat on .eth domains that are
and at the very least,
it's funny that
the subdomains,
right? Pay me for Diet Mountain Dew eventually. But,
yes, that's right on, man. Squatting on the ENS, that's excellent.
But get out there and buy stuff that's silly, because the silly stuff is the stuff that's going to be surprisingly my toaster needs it. My toaster needs a new plug. And pretty funny name for your toaster.
And it does have a hierarchy in there. I've not played with it at all, but you could do something like a Mr. Toaster megatexas.eth, that type of thing, right? So it's all good and it is fun. By the way, though, the thing that people should know, especially normies, is there is and I guess this is a very important point. There's a massive potential for really bad issues with security compromises on some of these devices that lead to your entire network, people stealing your email, people stealing your passwords, depending on how secure you handle things. But and I'll give you a quick story. We in a former company, I designed the cloud-based infrastructure for a consumer door lock, and it was a brilliant design. I mean, the guys that built the door lock, it was really high-end physical security, the best of the best. The manufacturing quality was over the top, and they didn't, they came because they were all low-end, microcontroller guys, and they needed some people that could help on the other side. And this was it was after Bitcoin was around, but it was way before blockchain was much anything beyond just Bitcoin. And one way or another, it was interesting, because if we wouldn't have been there, I'm just scared to think what could have gone out, because they they weren't thinking about the things, they wanted us to build stuff. So I said, sure, we can build that. But when we got in there, I started asking questions. What about this? What about this? What about this? And they're like, oh yeah, we need to do that, don't we? And it's like, yeah, because if one thing gets compromised, everybody with this lock, you could open all their doors all at once if you want.
One of the biggest first advances in key and lock technology in the physical world, right, happened right around the time of the American Revolution. In fact, had this not been a technological advance at the time, they might not have been able to conceive of the idea of the Fourth Amendment, right?
Wow.
Because at that time, it was brand new, awesome tech to have one key matched to your lock and nobody else's, and nobody else have another copy, right?
Yes.
They started making locks uniquely keyed at that point in time, and that was like for people back then. That's why those folks can sort of be accounted for, understanding, like, if I was going to make a Fourth Amendment argument that we should protect privacy on the web with cryptography, right? Because you can historically see these people swarming on the advancement of, it's not just a key that opens a lock, and everybody with the same locksmith who created the lock for you downtown at his locksmithery or whatever they call it, probably a blacksmith also, show up with his key, you can get in. Show up with anybody else's key, you can't, and you have to rely on everybody else around you to not just exploit the shit out of that, because we all know we have the same key. Well, not anymore, right? Buy my new your key, your lock technology, and they thought that was awesome, right? That might have even been the reason why we thought of the Fourth Amendment at all, or privacy or anything like that.
Yep.
So the right to reveal oneself selectively to the world requires you to be able to exclude everyone.
Yep. And all that stuff's really interesting, because it's like there's so many things that can be done, and I don't know. It's just like the like historically, if you follow offensive and defensive advancements, and I mean that's what happens in tech. So it's a really interesting thing. Yeah. I do remember.
We didn't touch the second part of the question, though. We haven't touched on the benefits yet. Really.
Okay.
But how will it make the world better is part two, and I think it's a useful thing to touch, because security alone makes it sound scary and not worth it, I think, to a lot of people.
True.
So
what do you think?
So
what?
Yeah. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
I mean, there are numerous. I hope. I mean, some of them are kind of toy-like. They're not really that important. Others, though, if we get our act together, could be valuable. But it's not necessarily going to be simple to get there, because there's so much complexity, and so many of the groups that manufacture devices that are in your house are so slow and regimented, and you've seen it, and they're competing against firms all over the world, different countries that are able to produce stuff faster and cheaper. And so, my hope is that, the premier devices, and that I'm not just saying like premier brands or anything, but a startup comes out and beats the other brands, because they do something with this that makes actual sense. And it's like, I might not need my hair dryer to have an internet connection, but there might be some things where it could help me track your kitchen, or we already see things like doorbells. Those have those a huge adoption, and I wish some of them were better.
When we were gone last week, case in point, week, and Austin's mom wanted to go get into his house for some reason. And he saw her pacing in front of his lawn when his Ring doorbell alerted him. And he's like, "Hey, Mom, why are you at my house? I didn't know you were going to be over there." He's like, "I need to get in there to get X, Y, or Z," which proceeded to turn into this whole thing, right? Like, you had to ask Austin about the story, because his garage keypad was broken. An IoT device that would have been helpful there would have been the ability to open and close the garage remotely over the internet, but was not available. So here we are with love our moms, right? But they're getting up there and they're not really super comfy with tech. So so we got to walk her remotely over the phone through the process of troubleshooting why the garage door won't open with the code she's putting in.
And retrofitting, like say something like that, like say for example, we moved into a house and I would like to replace the garage doors so that they can automatically open and close, various times, things like this. And it's a pain in the butt to do. I'd have to replace the entire unit and a whole bunch of other stuff. Whereas if you could, really you just need a device that can send the signal. So you could retrofit it, but and maybe that exists out there. I don't know. So,
one of the ones that really blows my mind when I think about it is like thinking about tiny little bits that are now not considered things, but like components of things. You don't think about the circuit board that's in your device. Like you don't think about the resistors and the transistors and the microprocessors, right? We sort of assume that this is a whole device. Those individual things could hypothetically be Internet of Things things. Imagine like a resistor that's modulatable because it has Turing complete machine inside it that modulates its own impedance abilities, right? Like you get into that kind of stuff and you start having to think about like, okay, so if I want to use piezoelectric fiber to make a gigantic soft wind power plant, because you can weave this thing together and a ripple will cause it to generate a lot of current with one piezo cell, but you got to coordinate all of the fibers all along in order to make it generate coherent power, right? Real challenge from the standpoint of electrical engineering. Would not be possible without IoT, and the things would actually be your power modulators and your sensors and all the things you would need to coordinate that flow, so that like a thing blowing in the breeze could generate more electricity than a turbine the size of like a physical hard turbine the size of all of them put together plus, right? Like it would be more power in a square yard of it than probably all the wind power we put up ever.
And
if we build that kind of thing, then we could change the way we live. But
that's awesome. One that it does exist, and I don't know how long, but it's been around for quite a while, is your hard drives that they track uses. Most hard drives have a system in them, at least the spinning ones, where they will even tell you in advance that it's close to failure. You need to get this backed up, and it'll tell your OS. And I don't know if Windows pays attention. I've seen it in Linux where it's popped up and said, first time it happened.
Just like your car tells you got a bad sensor when it goes into limp mode.
Yeah, I mean, first time it happened, it had a very reminiscent of HAL in 2001 saying, this is, this is going to fail.
Can't do that, Joe.
So that's interesting stuff already being put to
my
use.
Favorite one, though, I gotta tell you one more. Biggest favorite. Cybernetics. I love the idea of a remote controlled blood cell that I can tap into.
Direct it.
Like who needs a vaccine, right? Just tell it to kill whatever you're pointing it at.
That would be nice. Yep. It'd be like a first person shooter, right? You could navigate that thing around.
You can gamify it. Although if you suck at the game, you might accidentally blow. Like you could take friendly fire. If
Fantastic Voyage. That's what we need. We just you put little people in there.
Exactly.
You're set.
Exactly.
Right on.
Or like the micro spaceship, right? Those microchip size things you can accelerate out and get to Alpha Centauri in like a week.
Yes.
They have no G-force constraints and don't need food.
Right on. Okay. Let's see here. Next. Again, I am. Double question. Airbnb my freezer, dude. Be sure to connect it securely to the IoT network. Question: what if I rented freezer space to my neighbors? What if my neighbors could see via blockchain that it maintained the correct temp and they paid me per day for the space used? Maybe you have it in your garage with a public entry or something. If my freezer was an IoT device and I had a connection, what type of wallet would it use? All joking aside, maybe renting freezer space to my neighbors isn't a viable business. Not yet, anyway.
I think it totally is.
It could be. However, things like this could become part of our future. For example, people soon will not own cars. They will essentially Uber everywhere. A car will be driverless, tokenized, a shared investment, and we will use them almost like public transportation. Cars will become IoT property. I look forward to that, by the way. That would be really...
Yeah. Well, it'll actually be not the death of the car too. This is like something that gearheads really fear, right? people who love like the automobile and the idea of driving it yourself and the idea of racing and the thrill of it and also the danger, right? People love that. But it's not the end. It's just going to turn it into an expensive hobby, right? It's where it's all dedicated towards making cars that thrill you as opposed to making ones that you have to use as workhorses. Same thing happened to workhorses actually when we invented cars. Horses didn't go away. They just were used for the things that we loved most about them entertainingly, you know?
Yep.
Well, I mean,
Yep.
I guess there's still like those really sad carriage rides, but where you watch what happens when a horse gets past its prime somewhere else and they decide to sell it to the lowest bidder. But
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I guess for off-road, certain types of things that there's some extra other use. I don't know what else they use them for, horses, frankly, but anyway. True, and
glue. They make glue out of them. No, I'm teasing.
I don't, and I do like
they eat them some places.
The thought of essentially having the freedom over your own car, but allowing it to go off and make money to pay for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's an awesome thought. That someday I hope will be there. You know, and it's up against a lot of really nasty opponents in mostly from the lobby side and other car makers and things like that, where it's a legal hurdle. But Tesla's made amazing grounds. I can't believe how much they have built into their cars already,
right?
And how much they could do more as well. If
it's mind blowing, right?
So
imagine if you've been hearing about the latest on the Roadster. They're finally releasing some details.
No.
The SpaceX collab was not a joke. There will be cold air thrusters in it, and the least of that is going to be accelerating it from 0 to 60 in under 1 second. They're going to build in jump capabilities with it, where it's going to be able to hop over obstacles real quick.
What?
Yeah, I'm not shitting you.
That's crazy. Oh.
Yeah, and apparently that's not even all. They're sort of hinting at it. He put like some videos out where the car is seen. Like, I think it's horrendous.
I need to look. I haven't been paying attention.
AI, but like the car literally lifts off the ground and then back down as it moves over like a 6-foot high fence.
That's hilarious. That's cool. Very cool. I don't know anybody who hasn't driven a Tesla. It's an amazing bit of technology. It's crazy difference. It's like it's made by aliens. It's not even like it's a regular car. So. It's pretty cool.
I was thinking to get a Cybertruck and fill the back bed entirely with extra battery, like, and just drive across the country without stopping.
There you go. Yeah, that would be amazing, right? Right on. Let's do it.
Anyway.
Okay, let's see here.
We should start a campaign. Do you guys want to pay for us to do that? Like, we'll get the audience to chip in. We can get a Cybertruck and a ridiculous battery. Film it all. World Blockchain Roundtable, cross country, Cybertruck edition.
So. And we could, by the way, we still need to do some of those other interviews. We could do those on the road. We could get in a Tesla and we could just take, as far as we travel, we have to have the interview the entire distance. And then, maybe the return trip is a reverse interview or something. I don't know. Or maybe we pick up somebody and have to interview them on the way back. I don't know. We should do that. But that is the last question we have. So we're only 33 into the show, and we need to go to current events. So do you have a set of things? And I'll get the memes ready for the current events. Okay. Do you have anything?
Go for it. Well, so much actually has been happening. It's crazy. First off, I'd say everybody should be really optimistic right now for a good cause, because from what I've been seeing the last week in ETH Denver, I mean, what I've really been seeing are some of the most incredible people that I've ever met, still here, still building, more focused than ever. They've been bruised, they've been battered by our industry's maltreatment in the world, but they are fighting harder than ever to build a thing that can't be fucked with. So you can't be. Like, we're actually doing it. It's amazing to see all these people who I thought maybe 1 in 10 of them would survive to this, to the fight you phase. And once they started, I didn't imagine many of us would survive much longer than that in terms of just sticking with it, right? It'd be way easier for either of us to go get like, you wanted the SEC to go away from anywhere. To leave you alone, me, you, anybody, all you have to do is say, I'm so sorry. I'm going to go get a job at IBM and reevaluate my life. Take everything that I built, put it into a furnace, and I'll never think about it, and you'll never think about it. We'll go our way. They'd be loving that settlement.
That's what they want.
Because that's their goal. That's their fucking goal. And guess
that
what?
That is the goal.
They can't want to kill us because none of them ever could. They're outclassed by everybody who's doing the opposite thing. So, and I just saw so much brilliance while I was there.
That's great.
That I can't help but be fucking optimistic.
That's great. And by the way, it's an interesting thing too, because they haven't gotten most people to leave. Everybody who's in this world knows how important it is. And for various reasons, people have different reasons or different visions and different things that they want to focus on, but largely they haven't left because they know how important these things are and how much opportunity there is, right? So if you're in it for the money, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. If you're in it for the world-changing stuff, which also brings opportunity with it, there's no other industry. I don't even think AI can match what the blockchain and crypto world has for that. And blockchain and crypto world touches AI.
Right.
So it's a massive thing. What's that?
And technically computing. So
yeah. Well, and you look at it like like this meme here about Bob Iger selling it. The other interesting thing is that other world that has been essentially fighting against us because we would disrupt everything they're doing is looking to come to massive failure.
Well, they tried to tame our industry, and instead what they did was inflict themselves with the exact same awesome bug that we all got bit with when we first learned about it. Like, they are loving crypto now. They're starting to get it. By the way, the volume yesterday on Bitcoin alone was apparently indicative of not just people using the first ETF, but using it more than the most popular ones out there ever, running circles around them and running circles around them without having the ability to do options, without having the ability to have those transactions go through some of the biggest investment advisors and the littlest investment advisors. Like, every advantage belongs to the first two. This should not be happening, but for the fact that even the institutional guys are obsessed with Bitcoin now. Like, we win, right? If those guys start adopting Bitcoin in present state and have a stake in its preservation, they're going to start joining the fight for not changing it to make it easier for people to manipulate too.
Yeah.
The only way you win if you're the powers that be is if you get that change in before mass adoption, because status quo bias is pretty much going to tell you what's going to happen.
I'm gonna throw one bit of salt in there. One grain of salt. That
Well, I mean,
the issue
caveat is always we lose if we don't fight.
Yeah.
So,
and I have to think that they are many of, not all of them, largely focusing on Bitcoin and not the rest, because Bitcoin has been crippled for its utility, and that so it's a little more acceptable to them. And none of us know, and I have to assume, based upon how they run the stock market, how they run the metals markets, and every other damn thing that they touch on Wall Street and City of London and all of the other financial places in the world, that a lot of it's paper, and we won't know how much, and that's where the manipulation is already there, right? So
it's true. That's true. I mean, I feel like we're used to the legal process and the technology process moving at different speeds, but like missing out on the fact how much faster the tech's moving. I agree with you that they're going to keep trying to kill it, and that if things worked differently than they always do, we might have a real worry on our hands still, because we're not out of the woods, right? They can still manipulate the stuff. They can still weasel in there and change the way that the finance boys want to think about it, because all those guys care about is number go up. We've seen that, right? They came to crypto, number go up.
Yep.
Number go up. If they want that in a status quo system with Bitcoin now, Bitcoin stays the same. It does not change.
I don't think they do. I think
that's a big fat L for the other side, but we still have all the others to win on. Right.
Yeah,
we can't
I think they and there is a little bit too. They're saying like all the people, all of the elites, and you look at Bill Gates, you look at Bob Iger, you look at who else? There are a lot of them that are exiting their own stocks and exiting their holdings. And are they putting it into Bitcoin? Are they putting it into metals? Are they putting it into blood? The slaves. Maybe they've just expanded their slave plantation or something.
Do not know what those guys are up to. Guessing it's probably going into their little bunkers. Or they're planning maybe another psyop like Sam Bankman-Fried, right? Like where they find a guy who wants to do a derivative scam, and they're like, you just have to promise me the underlying asset has to be crypto. And when you're done, you have to be a good boy and take your whips. But when you get out, we'll take care of you. They're going to probably give you a sentence at the end of the day. What
are the odds we see a Hollywood drama that like this? Gosling as Sam.
I don't know. I feel like Ryan Gosling is too pretty.
It's hilarious. That's why this was hilarious. There are others. They would have somebody else, but they're going to make him out. And this is the thing. It's like,
I vote Danny DeVito in a wig.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that would work. As long as he runs, right? SBF's
the Troll Toll song.
Failure to read social cues puts him in extreme danger in prison. Instead of having his however 100 years he got, I don't know. They're trying to get him 5 years. I was like, oh my god,
it's such bullshit, man. There's pictures of him like hanging out and having fun with his buds. Stories from other inmates have suggested that he's well liked because he's not a snitch.
Yep. Man, well,
criminals actually kind of have respect for each other. He should stop lying. I bet you they're probably seeing if they can con his way out together. They're probably helping him plan it.
I'm sure. They're gonna find a way. Barbara Fried's gonna see to it. She has them all paid off, right?
Conspiracy theory. She's his twin brother. Actually, that's how they're gonna get him out.
Oh my gosh! Now this one, Hank. Let's just say,
trusted these people look like this. These people look like bad early generative AI creations. Like, are we sure they're real? Has anybody seen them in person, or we've only seen them on cameras?
We've seen video of them.
Look like cartoons.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the whole damn thing was a psyop. I mean, they knew that they were going to be.
Oh, this was a setup. The question
they were going to be funneling money both for Ukrainian, but also for all the kickbacks and
and they needed a guy that they could set up as a literal scapegoat so that they could excuse what they were about to try to do to our industry. They painted us all with that guy's fucking brush. And seriously, fuck you guys for fucking thinking that was going to work.
And note to everyone, for future reference, pay attention and listen to your gut, because I didn't ever use FTX. I had a login because they bought that one announcement system, so we had to get an FTX login for Dragon Chain so that our announcements, what was it, Blockfolio, because it was a lot of people would listen to it and stuff. But I remember asking even some people that did, it's like, well, what gives? I mean, all of the staking that they were doing, it's like, you make just tons of money doing this. And I'm like, where does this guy come from? He just came from everyone's like, he's a genius. And I'm like, it's pretty obvious he's not a genius.
Joe,
and everybody I asked was saying, was telling me, he's an arbitrage genius, and he made tens of millions on arbitrage with Bitcoin. And I'm like, and now
arbitrage will tell you straight away you got lucky is the only way you win at arbitrage.
And even the stories they were telling were totally fake. So I wouldn't doubt there's some intel, nation state intel behind it. It's probably almost obvious with
the tell is obvious.
The number, the amount of money that was cycling on FTX out of nowhere was telling, because you look at these people and you think, wait a minute, you talk to any of them, I'm not putting billions in there.
The only value that they can make is through using unit accounting tricks on rehypothecations.
Yep, and that's what
because there's no value flowing in.
Every cheat that they could do, they did, and they did it.
It's an obvious scam, but here's the interesting thing: if you were going to crime with crypto, what would the authorities be most scared of? A derivative scammer who was using rehypothecation to enrich themselves, Or somebody who was like, you know what, I don't have to actually follow any of these rules that they have for the world, and I can help others break them too and encourage them to if I hide well. So you hide well, and you unleash a completely nullification of internet law for anybody who uses it, right? That's what they're really terrified of. And yet the patsy that they set up to paint us with an ugly brush is a greed-oriented thief. It's like when you talk about corrupt politicians, people don't talk about corrupt politicians as in, I took money from this industry and now I'm going to use it to hurt somebody else's competitors. They look at it in terms of, I took money from this person because I wanted to have a gold watch and a house in the Sunset Hills or whatever the fuck, like a yacht named after my dog. Who knows? These people are fucking crazy. But the point is, they're not out to steal money. The really dangerous ones are out to use the power they have to steal power.
Yeah.
And the thing that they're afraid of is that someone is going to use this altruistically in a kind of Robin Hood criminal way. And that's not what this guy was up to. This guy was up to plain old corruption. And that's the exact kind of case they wanted to put in front of everybody to paint us with a broad brush with. They did not want to show people a world where, like, hey, look, you can get away with actually living in the world without doing what they say.
Yeah. There's that's a whole thing that, I mean, since the beginning, they it's very obvious that they use any negative to paint crypto as bad, even though all of the negatives had nothing to do with crypto. It was just a bunch of Wall Street guys from Goldman Sachs doing their normal thing that they normally do on Wall Street, and they just happen to have a crypto face to it. It's centralized.
Someone's going to leak the SPF files. We're going to find out it actually is his mom, like in a wig.
Well,
like
I mean, if you look at, even enough, I've seen his mom and dad were so heavily involved, and as was our good friend Gary Gensler at the SEC, directly involved.
5 degrees.
They were freaking conspiring with each other, and he's still
They hang out in the faculty lounge together when he's not ruining.
I'm even talking about Sam having meetings with Gary, sitting there that he tried to hide. And it's obvious what they were doing.
He wasn't like a regular dinner guest. Like he remembers.
I tell you what,
Sammy when
again, I think that the patron saint for crypto right now is CZ, and it came out of nowhere. But if it were not for CZ, we would have regulations written by freaking Sam and his mom and dad in place right now. If it weren't for CZ. True. It's like you have to think how important was that?
There, you're right.
And what did he get? What did he get? They got a huge fine, and he had to resign from Binance, which is and
they had to console themselves with a PR victory by dragging his name through the mud while pinning the crypto.
And people, by the way, I say this: people who know me know I was not a fan of Binance. I hated the way that they did listings and stuff like that. You have to pay us 41 Bitcoin.
Chain was like basically scam chain central. I liked it only because it kept scammers from using any other chain.
That's funny. We had a thing. I think we pissed him off way back. And I know people who know him, and I've had emails with him, and everything I've heard about him, he's a decent guy, and not a scammer. I don't know though. I've never met him in person or anything else. But we posted that I can't remember what it was that we would integrate with their system, and we put the same price that he put for a listing. It was just it was a joke. But anyway, there's some funny stuff there. So
other fun in the news, it's obvious that Google has decided to double down on performative, trivial, superficial anti-racism shit instead of being honest about what it's up to. They're like oh, you think this is us being extreme? We're gonna turn it up to 11 and rip the motherfucking knob off. Like that's what they're at right now. I searched Google yesterday for something to do with the immigration system. I was trying to figure out when did we switch from exclude criminals, rapists, bad people, and everybody else apply this way and pay the tax and get it, to we're going to let in a small select white list of professionals. So I use whitelist, blacklist, and instead of getting info about what I searched for, I got info, top results, telling me exactly why that's an inappropriate use of language now. I got scolded by the search engine for the search terms I put in because they are trivially related to racism. And the funniest part is, even by their own stupid reasoning, where you actually, let's say arguendo, we assume that you're right, this is bad, and we need to stop doing this when it's bad. You look at it, the details of it is a blacklist is intentionally specifically difficult to exclude groups with, and a whitelist is especially easy to exclude groups with, and it actually kind of makes their point for them if you let people find it.
Yeah.
But the amusing part to me is I was searching for something about the immigration system that would have been, the implementation of whitelisting versus blacklisting, going from individual evaluation to group exclusions, and I got distracted from doing that because they wanted to nitpick semantics with me. And if I wasn't a more patient person who wanted both answers, I might have gotten distracted from that and never learned about the actual structural racism built into the immigration system by going to whitelists. Right? So I've been too busy arguing about the fucking words.
Yeah. Well, I will say,
they had a great immigration system before. We should just go back to it. All we have to do is tax people and fund the agency off of what they take for what they make.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. I've said for a long time that I think the primary for the current batch of AI, that the primary method of monetization is going to be censorship related. It's if your company doesn't want to be shown in a bad light creatively by this AI, or you don't want certain events or
it's Choke Point 2.0 applied to everybody, including banks.
Yeah, and by the way, so IAM4AM says military industrial complex took over the banksters with guns, extortion, and other methods like Epstein Island. I think they're one and the same. I think that they own a lot of what is the military industrial complex, and therefore, and they know, hey, okay, we might be a vassal state, so that means we're going to go to war with these countries. Therefore, we need these types of weapons. Therefore, we know how much money is going to pump in. It's a sure bet. You know that we're going to go to war, so you're going to make billions and billions making those weapons of death. So it's a bad.
I would posit Animal Farm nailed it, right? Remember the last line of the book? The creatures outside look from pig to man and from man to pig, right? And from pig to man again, and they couldn't tell the difference anymore. That's how it is.
Yeah. Yep. Did you see this? I don't know if this is true or not, but it's at least a funny story.
What's wrong with this thing today?
I'll tell this story real quick, and it might be totally fake, but it was hilarious either way.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay. That this dude placed a bet that there would be a streaker during the Super Bowl, and he himself was the streaker, so he won the bet. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's an awesome story if it is, and I hope the best for him. Anyway, let's see here. What else? While we're waiting on Greg to come back, there are several things in the news. There's Aaron Bushnell, and Greg. I don't know if you have any comments on the self-immolation in front of an embassy in DC. The Israeli embassy.
Oh, who was it that did that? I actually haven't followed this story. I'm very curious.
Aaron Bushnell is his name. Supposedly this is the last.
Is he related to Nolan Bushnell? By any chance?
I doubt it. He was active.
He's not the Chuck E. Cheese founder's son or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I don't know. Of course, they did say
either way.
There was one of his friends came out and said that he had info that American troops were in the tunnels in Gaza, which is a freaking scary prospect because we shouldn't be there.
If he knows where tunnels people are.
Oh, that's a good point. In New York versus, I don't know, right?
Okay.
But here's another one. And by the way, now I'm just going through memes. So if you have any,
I have a couple news items worth touching.
Yeah, tell me.
So, is anybody interested in why Coinbase went down yesterday?
Yes, I didn't even. I was so busy. I didn't even know what happened until
later. I can't hear you again. This is the damnedest thing.
We'll just say it. Go ahead. Just tell us. He might. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right. Oh, okay. He'll come back and he'll tell us. He will tell us about that. And in the meantime, I will keep. Okay, here's Greg again. We're going to have to get your ID. Okay, go ahead. Coinbase.
Oh yeah. So the Coinbase deal was like, it literally they provisioned 10x capacity over what they were expecting to be precautious, and they saw so much volume that they went down, and they were just under provisioned.
That's all. That makes sense. I mean, that totally makes sense.
People though, like, you know why, for instance, people wonder why they show zero. You know why they show zero balances when it's not connecting, right? It's because it's a timeout, and if you have it pick any other number or any other thing than just $0 until it adds in, you actually make the code more complex. So it's a favor to you to avoid latency that they're not showing something like a connection status in that same field, because you don't want to slow it down any more than already has to be.
Oh yeah.
I mean, UX could be modified to fix that, but like I've always been like, if they're showing a zero balance, it's not working. It's probably just because they're not having a good connection to the blockchain happen.
It'd be good to know how many bots there are. Like, and even there are some things that would be interesting in those cases. I worked on a couple of systems at Disney that did some of these, but we never had an ability to see it in action. But would be the ability for a very limited and very simple proof of work on the client side, so that at least things can be throttled over time, right? You still have to, if something much simpler than the website itself with all the interface and features can be extremely decentralized, that can give you a this is the equivalent of a difficulty rate current. So if we're heavily hit right now, let's say there's a denial of service attack or something, that this secondary system can tell everyone who's participating, well, you have to provide this proof of work, and then you can have hardware that can evaluate that before it hits. And I mean, you can do some efficiencies that way. It's still,
well, I mean, when you start thinking about like IoT plus, and I lost sound again. What the hell's going on here? Do you think it's on your side?
Nope, I can hear you. I can hear you still.
I'm just gonna hit refresh. That worked. I'll be back real quick. Hang tight. Okay. I got a point to make.
Cool. There is that question that historically, and hopefully Greg will be back. Okay. So when you hear this, historically, Coinbase has had an issue that has always been called out by the crypto community, that anytime there's a bull run, it seems to shut down so that they can't.
Right. They seem like a throttle, don't they?
Yeah.
It seems very much like what that fucking company did to that's the douchebag who outbid the Constitution auction people. Right, Constitution DAO, same dude is part of the company that backstops, that finances Robinhood. It feels like a Robinhood throttle.
Yep.
And
by the way, this meme. Oh, go ahead. I didn't know you. Go ahead. Finish.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, that the thing to know about Coinbase though is, to the extent that they are a throttle, it's because the information is filled, or the organization is filled with people who are doing it surreptitiously. This is not an evil conspiracy theory that the top is in on so much as it is that some of the top are in on it and some of them are not. There's a factional thing going on there, right?
I've had
some of them are true believers and some of them are just parroting it, but you have to say you're a true believer in order to not get fired from there still. Because the majority of the hirers are true believers who started in this one when they had no reputation to lose.
The hard thing, the thing that I wonder about, because I've had multiple friends who have been attacked successfully and not successfully with definite inside info from a Coinbase account, where they call someone saying, "Oh, you have this issue," and they use that.
They'll do the thing, or like if they go through the legal process, they'll blow you up and wide. They won't fight it, right? You're not going to see any, you're going to see court cases where they make a request for information and they check it's lawful as a matter of policy by challenging it all the way. Like that's what really will do. Like if somebody sends us a request for your information, the first thing we do is we go, okay, send us a proper process. And when they send it, the next step is to call our lawyer up and say, okay, we're going to push this to as many appeals as we get until we decide that it's valid by losing. Right?
Oh yeah.
Well, it's an interesting while we let our policies run, because they won't be able to get us they won't get us a preservation of information request fast enough before we push it anyway. So your information will be safe.
Even before it gets into any legal wrangling, it's very clear that crypto it's almost like it's a bounty for finding bad systems, because you have a digital asset there that can be moved, and you better damn well there are no shortcuts to protecting that. You can't rely on oh, this is how we did stuff in the 90s, because you're gonna lose. And so I'm proud that I've had numerous businesses. There was one business that we knew that had a physical attack in their office that they luckily listened to me way back when I kind of introduced how to handle the hardware wallet and how to set stuff up securely and do all the right things, that they didn't lose any funds at all, even though they lost all the devices, right? So they had everything properly accounted for, and that's a good thing, right? Because man, you just think about how much money has been lost in the crypto world from mistakes and things like that. And anybody who's run a crypto firm has gotten the badly written English. Hey Joe, this is Jim. I need you to send however many 100,000 tokens to this address, right? No, and it's happened so many times.
Do you ever decide to go like righteous justice on a scammer? Like, do you ever decide to play karma when one of them reaches you, because you can actually figure out who they are if you decide to bother with them?
I did one once, and it wasn't necessarily that I attacked them back. I just it was a dude that was a person, that was supposedly in Africa. I think they were in Nigeria. And they were trying to scam us. And I said, hey, that doesn't work. We know that, I can't remember what.
They were trivial to docs, like typically trivial to docs.
Yeah. And the guy, the guy basically said, well, yeah, I'm starving and I need some money and I need to, and so I gave him a way to, on his own. It's like, you can go into Den and do this. It's free. You can, and this was, back in the early days of Den. And so I don't know if this person ever did or anything, but I at least tried to frame it as like, don't scam people. There's so much opportunity. You could do things.
Yeah, like if you're clever enough to pull off a scam, then you're clever enough to like get a real job, and do some awesome stuff.
To build something, do something. So anyway,
just to like trigger everybody who cares about triggers in the audience right now, if you're like really into this and you're prepared for a flashback to 2017 and you're gonna get mad at me, awesome. I invite it. Learn to code. This guy could learn to code.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, in my opinion, coding is the most fun hobby on earth. It's like, it's a superbly creative, yet very, it's all focused on, you can't be inaccurate.
It forces you to focus on every little step. And the problem that most people face when learning it, to getting through it, is to focus on the actual little steps. You can learn to think at the smallest scale.
Yep.
And it disciplines your mind in a way that's beautiful and fun. So even if you don't need to use it, it's still worth it to learn it. Kind of like it would be worth it to learn.
And I've told my kids, it doesn't matter if you want to be an artist.
Zen meditation techniques.
Yeah, you might want to be an artist. You might want to be a business person. You might want to be a lawyer. God forbid, don't be a lawyer. But or in all of these things,
to be a lawyer, and then when you find out you hate it, have the courage to leave it.
There you go. Really that's because all the best people do. But the fact is, if you're a coder, you can do things that others in your field can't do, and you can do amazing things. So anyway, and this, by the way, here's the sorry.
You can also know when people are bullshitting you about the capabilities of things.
Yep, exactly. That's a huge one. I think that if anything else, lawyers should learn even a tiny bit of coding so that they can communicate better with their customers, like especially in blockchain.
And so they know, like right out of the gate, this person doesn't need to be
I had a
broken down bit by bit and looked at, because
one of my first,
they're not saying something consistent.
Yep. One of my first independent customers, clients, when I started coding when I was a kid, when I was very young, it was amazing. This guy had no experience with any of that at all. And through our working together, he became an expert at SQL. Like he could pull queries together to find the data he needed for what he was trying to do with this business. And he could do all these things with the system that I was just always impressed. The guy, I mean, he was brilliant, but I was like, man, I never expected that. But it made working with him so much more efficient and effective. Like we could get stuff done like crazy because he actually understood what I was talking about.
Yep.
And he would actually be able to bring ideas. Anyway, it's really cool stuff. But this is the memes are not in order. They're in the order that they came. And so this Google one, this is particularly an important one for what we were just discussing. Very interesting. And then the other side, this one is, and I think I might even have a picture of it. I don't know the protocol, right? But during the that self-immolation, literally there's a dude in the video pointing a gun at the guy because he might do something. It's the most ridiculous American cop type meme you could think of. He's like, yeah, drop your weapon. It's ridiculous. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And it's probably protocol in front of an embassy or something.
Stupid, actually, and actually truth, right? The way that you are lied to by omission is a technique called framing. Learn it, live it. Start practicing it. Frame things yourself and test its efficacy, right? The people you have to talk to every day, you want to get a certain impression of you, only give them information about the impression you want them to see. Don't talk about your problem. Talk about what you want. If your problem makes you sound selfish, or don't talk about your what you want if your problem makes you sound compelling, right? Pick and choose the story you tell by what you leave out, and you can start using the propaganda tools that are weaponized against you every day against them, and then you will see, because you will see it if you try it. I swear to God, that you can frame your way out of any situation by painting yourself into the right corner. And you just have to be a little strategic about it, and you can get the world to go along with anything.
Yep.
Because that is the number one heuristic people use: is go along by assuming good faith.
Yep. It's crazy.
So yeah, I'm totally with you, man. Oh my God.
I have some good Biden.
I feel like that he's a deep fake now. I think that's just generative AI.
Probably not the same guy.
That elderly care place that they're walking by is obviously really there, and the parking lot is what they superimposed. I'm teasing. I don't think that.
I don't know. It's funny though. It's hilarious.
No, he walks into the other old folks' home that we have. It's just on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, man. Man. Oh yeah. So here's
that's interesting too. Actually,
here's the cop at the self-immolation. I'm sure he's a proud.
Honestly, who would not be fucking willing to? Who would be fucking willing to sit there and watch a human being burn alive and not put them out of their misery if he had a sidearm?
That's the good point. I mean, what is protocol? Can they do that? Because that's what,
like,
anytime in human history before,
not do that. Like, you're watching somebody burn alive in person,
and then you think about it too. You're watching somebody burn alive in person. It's like, oh well, I don't want to get in trouble, and it's like that's the level of So a cop, not only is he going to shoot you,
they've got a proximate cause problem thanks to the gasoline and fire.
Yeah, not only is the cop going to shoot you when it comes to it, but he won't shoot you when you need him to. That's the worst part. It's like, oh, because protocol, I have to follow the rules. I can't. And yet they don't follow the rules if they feel like punching you either. So it's all crazy.
That said, I think we should maybe equip all cops with a backpack fire extinguisher.
That's not a bad idea. I don't know. I mean,
then at least, like, if somebody did that, you could do something other than shoot them or watch.
Yep.
Like, those are shit choices. I wouldn't want either of those options.
Yep. You and the mouse are similar in that regard. I like that meme. So let's see.
So another interesting thing, like, why is Nikki Haley still in the presidential race?
Is she? Oh my God.
Yeah, she lost in her own state by like over 20 points and didn't even win her home county. I think like it's so embarrassingly sad, but it's also like it bespeaks what she's really there for.
I still think her handlers think that they are going to get Dawn.
I think he's probably having to have a personal taster check everything he eats right now. And I suspect that if they don't get him by imprisonment, they're going to try to get him by assassination.
Yep. Not like they haven't done that before.
And Nikki Haley, as long as she's still in the race, they think will be the presumptive, but that will not happen. Right? This is where they all make the stupid mistake. Well, if Nikki Haley's there, let's just pick her because she's no. You'll pick Vivek instead. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, it's I don't know. The whole thing's freaking rigged. I even think I think Trump's part of it, like rigged. I mean, you know, he might be the, but I still think he's.
But that's the most interesting part about Nikki Haley, though, right? Because we know that she took a lot of money from the military-industrial complex, right? Like, and all of a sudden she woke up one day and like got neocon in her heart and soul, and she proclaims it every day. She's willing to say like, we need to go to war. Wars are good. She loves every war, as long as it's armed and financed by their side on both sides. Especially then, right? You know, if we can sell the bombs to both sides shooting each other and none of them are Americans, they consider it the biggest kind of win, as long as it's something they can drag out by blocking at the UN Security Council level. Yeah. But that person is now getting donations from some really interesting people who I thought would never be of that mind, right? Like, basically avowed anarcho-capitalists are voting for this person and voting for her by funding her still. She's raking in donations, right? Why would you ever donate to this person if you were an ANCAP? Because she's demonstrated her ability to do exactly what her financiers say. Well, she's like, anybody with money is purchasable candidate.
What's the difference between the citizen and the civilian, Greg?
The difference between a citizen and a civilian? Yep. You're going back to the day, man. You're going back to the day.
I'm just reading a meme.
I don't remember the PKD quote. How did he put it?
The quote. This is at least the new form. A citizen returns the shopping cart.
Oh God.
Oh man, it's so funny.
Yeah. That movie was a great critique of militarism as a notion of civil responsibility.
This
better world.
By the way,
a civilian is a person who goes along with the propaganda, and a citizen is one who stands up to it.
That's good. Yeah, I like it. This one is good. Bear markets create strong memes. Strong memes create bull markets. Bull markets create bad memes. Bad memes create bear markets. It's a simple,
I love it.
Perfect cycle. And take note, because you can track the memes, and you can maybe see maybe predict the future a little bit. Speaking of which.
Yep. So if a meme is bad and a meme is good, what we're really doing is we're evaluating its survivability, right? Because the concept of meme is just like the concept of gene. It's a thing. It's a unit of information passed down in a survivable organism. So a survivable meme-plex is composed of survivable memes.
Survivable is a part of it, but I think velocity and penetration are possibly more important, because if I look at a meme and next week it might not even mean anything to me, but if it gets straight into my brain.
Well, the death of a meme is forgetting it, right?
Or not passing it. You don't necessarily have to remember it. That's what I'm saying. It's what matters is whether the imagery and concept can drill straight through your eyes into your brain and get you to.
Well, that characterizes it, right? That's like its phenomenology. But if you want to think about like the idea of a meme as a component of an organism called a memeplex, and the memeplex survives or does not, depending on survivability of its memes. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I do think they compete.
Recessive or a dominant trait in a population of memeplexes that interbreed.
Yep. I mean, I do think they compete with each other, and certain of them are, will have more potency in certain. How do I say this? In certain situations in the world, right? That pop up. But I'm drawing near to the end of my catalog. I'm going through here some of them that are, and I don't know why it's doing this. I need to kill something on my side. I'm hearing something. It's making noise that it shouldn't be making.
Right. So if natural selection selects organisms with genes in them that have more survivable genes, right? Then what do you call the kind of selection that selects for memeplexes that have the most survivable memes? The answer is fun. because
I don't know. What is it?
Mimetic selection would be the right answer there.
Hmm,
If you're going by like the original idea as articulated by what's his butt, Hofstadter.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the whole thing first articulated in Eternal Golden Braid? Does I recall? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably it's a multi-emergent idea, but it's the first time I think I read it.
I remember I bought the book that the guy wrote who invented the term meme way back, because I thought it was a super interesting concept, and it was way before the internet or the internet meme. That it confused me when internet memes came out. It was like, wait a minute, is this the same thing? And it was interesting. So it's just a much more
sort of is the
powerful
same
version.
thing, but it's sort of
yeah, it is. It's just.
Do you remember the name of the author?
No, I would have to look.
Let's find out
somewhere.
No, that can't be.
And he was he was a researcher. It was
Richard Dawkins did not invent the term meme because it was around before.
Yeah, it was.
That's what Google's trying to tell you.
Well, Google contains no butter. Essentially it was where he founded these. We lost Greg. He founded these fish were sharing ideas or copying off of each other, right? And so it became these fish copying off of each other to compete for mates is what led to him exploring that. This one's good. This was the Google's AI chessboard. Sorry, that's hilarious. I do think
that's fantastic. Yep, it's the good guys against the good guys.
Yes, man. Well, I think I'm drawn to a close on my availability of new memes. I'm not done. I'm checking through. Let's see here. I mean, here's some that don't really apply to anything. These are not political memes.
Do you have any good Assange memes out there? Like, who's doing those?
I have, but I think largely they've been, co-opted by time. It's been so long.
Totally.
Now, as stuff comes out.
I had an idea earlier today when I had a hunch that it was just going to be you and me on, and we were going to have to like carry current events without also being monologue-y, which is very hard to do when you only have two people. Just pro tip, guys: when you start a show and you want to talk current events, more than two people, because otherwise one person's going to end up going, that's cool, and it's going to like carry like that.
I think. Well, I think I think we both got on various bits of stuff. Other than the fact I'm trying to cycle through all of these great memes in the midst of you talking. Gary, so I apologize if I wasn't. So we're now approaching.
I've seen that face before recently. That Gary Gensler face on my dogs when they get back from getting neutered. They look bewildered and betrayed by reality.
What are you saying? I did see, and this is an odd feature of if you go to his Twitter account, and you weren't here last week, so some of this is okay, right? That he says 3 children, and he's the 33rd. It's all this stupid numerology bullshit. He has 3 threes in his Twitter profile. I don't know. It's all ridiculous.
Numerology says a lot more about the people who came up with the ideas behind it than it does about the things it's supposedly talking about. Because
because
the thing about pattern recognizers is they develop intelligence at scale.
Yeah, and it's one of the things too that you can't discount the fact that other people do use it, and therefore you might be seeing something that is tied to some secret society or whatever else, right?
And we may inadvertently structure patterns in it, right? Like astrology seems at first like a stupid idea, like when you were born affecting your personality. But then you start thinking about it, you're like, wait a second. January where I was born is cold, meaning when I woke to consciousness, it was probably like March, April, May. So I was a person who came to consciousness when it was, and that's his buddy, by the way, in a different picture, they're all around each other, and it's like this. You got to try to find it, but
really, I think I've seen the other one somewhere.
They think he's a little skinny gangster, just like they all love Madoff, right? They love him too.
Oh, here's a legal one. We talked about this last week. That John Oliver offered Clarence Thomas $1 million a year to resign, which has to. I mean,
I wonder what he
I would say it's
did. I wonder what John
unpatriotic,
Oliver
but
did to get on the blackmail list, right? Because that guy's obviously controlled.
I could say some things, but I'm not going to say them.
Wait, you know John
Pretty
Oliver's
obvious.
CIA blackmail?
No, I just know
what he did.
that you can tell by some of the stuff he's done that he's I don't know that he's owned.
Obviously
I know that he's
kind of
tied in.
OVO.
I've only seen a couple of clips. Luckily, I've never
vibes, let's put it that way.
watched him, right? So
yeah,
I can at least be proud of that for a little bit. Anyway, I think
I stopped watching him on principle after he did his crypto episode.
He
said one true thing and then proceeded to lie about it.
Oh, and okay. By the way, I am thinks of CoinBridges as serial numbers on a microscopic level, somewhat. I mean, they're not unique, right? But they are. I guess they're
hard to
unique.
They're hard to counterfeit.
Very hard.
They're also not super useful in terms of identifying genuineness because you still can't assume that they weren't counterfeited. You can just know if they were, if those things aren't there or they're in the wrong place, or the character of them. Like you're especially precise with your attention to detail if they were cut wrong for the medium and the cutter.
Well, and they were there. If you go back to history, you can look at. And I don't know if that's. I don't know if that meme popped up, right? But that is a how do I say this? They were put in place. They were invented for a very particular reason historically that there were people counterfeiting coins in England or Britain or I don't know what.
Well, the silly part about it is, how many times do you ever really check those indicia of fraud? Right, like who really takes the time to look at a driver's license for the hologram?
Yeah.
Right. Who really takes the time to make sure the coins are the right weight and with the right markings? Right. It's more of a feature of trustiness. It's like they're trying to imbue it with a notion that if you didn't trust it, you could verify it, so that you can do exactly what people do with full nodes. They never, the one thing that nobody ever queries is the state tree to see if the blockchain's been fabricated. Like, no one does that call. It's there.
But, and that's some of the value that
similar.
If blockchain, if cryptocurrency were adopted in a way that would be near universal cash, it would be remarkably valuable because you would know when you're getting paid that you're really getting paid, and you would. I don't know. There's so many reasons.
It would unseat tropes of payment times and all these little details they do. Like most of the stuff that you have to deal with, a human being living in the world, is bullshit designed to make it easier for bookkeepers.
Yep.
Right. Like it's not tailored to you, the consumer. It's
and by the way,
the people who have to keep track of it.
And by the way, that's why we at least took and this was years ago when we put out our CBDC paper on what can blockchain offer. Right. It isn't just all of the bad stuff. You could actually do very great things. And hopefully it's not a central bank digital currency. Hopefully it's a country's citizens create a currency. Yep. But either way,
if it is a central bank digital currency, we at least better hope there's an alternative that people can still access. Right.
Yeah. And let's assume, I mean, I don't believe that this is possible in today's world with the people who would be candidates to run this, but any conceivable central bank is going to be corrupt in the way that the central banks currently are in the world, where they're printing money in order to create power and get kickbacks to the right people and stow away precious metals and Bitcoin and whatever else they might want to do, but and to manipulate the rest of the world with war. You could make a central bank, and maybe it's not a central bank, and I'm not a banker. Thankfully,
you can make a lender of last resort bank. Right?
Yes, and you could make your treasury. You could issue your currency in such a way that everyone out there will know if there is an inflation rate, and it's transparent, and it's with foreknowledge. We know that they're going to print more of these on that date. You think about Bitcoin.
Joe, I told you about Embiggen, right? They were talking about the only cryptocurrency ever released by Rivet. Before we were Rivet.
What is it?
OpenRivet created a token called MBGN, and it is like Simpsons themed. we sort of halfway stole the visual and halfway made it different so that nobody could argue copyright. And then on the coin, we had a big M in the Simpsons bubble type, and around the edges we said X plura, because it was from one many, and the token's main property was that every 10 minutes its supply increased across the entire unit, so that if you had some, then the percentage increase would come to you proportionally, and it was stated up front that this was an inflationary coin.
How long can it go on before there's the numbers are too big, or does that
a long time? Like, we didn't do a very high percentage because we didn't want it to get stupid. But
yeah, that's cool.
We did have to create something called Notcoin. We also released Notcoin, which is not really a token. All it is a token contract where all the checks for, do you have enough for the spend? Do you have a permission that's high enough for the spend? Do you have any? They all just go yes, yes, yes.
Yep.
So everybody has the maximum that can be represented at all times, and you can use it as a way to do one-sided exchanges. We set the airdrop up so people could go trade the Notcoin we know they already have, because everybody has every amount of it, in exchange for some Embiggen, and all they do is pay gas.
That's awesome.
Click, pay gas,
I love it.
Get Embiggen, and then you can never get rid of it, because it's accruing interest at a rate that causes you to have a little bit left every time you send it.
I would like to see something like the first one you had, where it automatically forks, or not forks, it automatically splits, but where it would be a governance issue. It's like, it's $10,000 a pop now. Let's split them, right? I don't know. That would be fun.
Let's make seniority something that inflation accounts for.
Yes,
rather than seigniorage. Sorry, bad joke. Boo, Greg.
With that, what are your closing remarks? What do you have? What's going on?
Closing remarks have to do with this little clever bit that I had in my subtitle, right? Which is not showing right now. I've been doing research lately because I've been obsessed with this idea that we need to combine something like IAM's Umbrella Promise with what I'm calling Reboot 1901. The reason 1901 instead of 1910, which I had previously done, is because I found out that it was about the point they broke the immigration system. And it's looking like around then, if we set there, all of the laws, every law ever written in the United States, if we took it and just said, reset.
Yes.
We're going to do this concurrent with some we're going to keep the good stuff, right? Like, we're going to keep the equal protection, the thing about banning people from the presidency, because we saw that hopefully that worked out in terms of political gamesmanship when shit breaks later. And we plan on it breaking again. Like, we plan on having to do this again. The sunset clause on Reboot 1901's legislation will be absent a supermajority that bears on a total majority. This thing will sunset, and this process will be required again in another 100 years. We kill all the laws and run them back to 1901.
Is needed.
And we anticipate that we're going to get this whole thing over again in another permutation of mistakery. But we'll know when Woodrow Wilson shows up this time.
I think that should come with a constitutional amendment or a refresh of the Constitution.
And this is a legislative attack. This is not elect a president that wants to do this. This is elect a legislature that can override any veto.
Yeah, because I would think
state by state.
That should be cooked into the Constitution, that any law will expire, and and they have to. You have to actively
sunset clauses should be permanent. And they should have to die before you can bring them back.
Yeah, and it's like that way. It's like, okay, because there are definitely certain laws that everybody say, oh yeah, remember we better renew that. I don't want that to expire. Let's
I really do not hate this country, especially love this country, right? Like, you would like a critic that's so vitriolic, sometimes really mean about it to people who I think are winning it. Doesn't care. Quite the opposite. I care quite a bit, and I think this may be the only way we can save it. And if we don't, we'll come up with a way to move forward ourselves, and it'll be a sad memory. But if we can fix it, then we can maybe keep all the good parts and get rid of the bad and still have it.
Yep.
Which would be neat. So that's my hope with this, and I hope that that you guys will start looking into what happened around 1900 to 1910, because that was when our country fundamentally changed in character from something that resembles a minarchy and a liberty-loving place, right? It was liberty-loving to that point, and it expressed that in laws, and something happened, and you guys really got to see about it. Like, you got to read everything that didn't used to be, and figure out when it changed. And I bet you it's gonna lead like a freaking freight train right back to 1910. So,
1913 was the
my 2
evil year.
cents.
1913 was the evil year.
Second
and
thing,
I know there was a couple of things before that. Okay, yeah.
Second thing, check out the new thing called DPIN, Centralized Physical Infrastructure. I've been waiting for a name to say the secret thing that we're building is a part of, and we finally have our answer to if DeFi is to Greg's secret project to do decentralized exchanges, then DPIN is to Greg's secret project to do something I haven't revealed to anybody yet. So
there's apparently a lot of hype
on
around that, because we have a customer that's heavily interested in that, and we're like, and I didn't know where it came from. I knew kind of what it was and so on, but the hype is there.
Even like popular on any place in Reddit until like 3 months ago, and now there are YouTube videos about it accelerating weekly. We got to have some people on to talk about DPIN.
Yeah,
you really have.
So for me, I am for Am. How do we stop Google or make it irrelevant? Stop using it. Great to see you, Brian, back, especially on Twitter and stuff. So thanks a bunch. And if anybody has the means, please contribute with dollars or crypto or whatever currency you have to the Dragon Chain Legal Defense Fund, which is at legalfund.dragonchain.com. We need money for lawyers. They cost a lot of money, and we're about to come into the Year of the Dragon events that have us up against
big donors. Make it
evil organization.
For me personally. I will give them something personally cool that will.
There you go.
We'll hatch a plot and something else, and you can have the something else.
And I'll do whatever I'm legally able to do. I mean, I'll commend you. I don't know if I'm allowed to, and I don't know. Right? Maybe I'm allowed to give you stuff, but if I am, I will. So anyway, so that's everything. Join us again next week. Make sure you make sure you share this so that the people who ask the questions get more lot. And make sure you get in there. Next week is, you know what? It's not written. So it'll be the first March one. So what was the first, what's the next problem blockchain can solve? My show notes don't have it in there. So the next problem blockchain can solve is next week. So that should be a great show.
That should be fantastic. I think I voted for that one because I was super excited about all the ways we could fork that question into specific things that will feel like audibles, but I had one specific in mind, and I may post into the forum if I get around to it, because I'm mad about that. Some things to pre-read if anybody has the courage to delve with me into research papers I got from Sci-Hub, from Intelligence Strategy Studies journals.
Right on.
So
put it in the replies.
But the one more thing that I had real quick. I think we should consider the possibility that one day we do like any good schoolroom, right? We're teaching people a day where we show a video instead of talk for most of it. The first half could be like something really intense we want everybody to watch and share, and the second half we comment it. I want to float that idea out there to see if people like it.
I think it'd be great because we could put it up on there and even comment over it. We could pause it if we wanted, but we could definitely make the levels so that we can talk over.
Because I feel like sometimes we all have things in our head that nobody else has read, and if nobody else has read in time for class, you can talk about it. Right?
Yeah, so there's too much going on in the world.
So we should just co-read it, co-watch it, and then discuss. And I think that might be a cool new format to admit for every once in a while. So,
all right,
when the teacher's hung over, we can watch a movie.
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Thanks a bunch. Thanks, Greg. Talk soon.
Because that gold will will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.